and welcome to the Writing Gals podcast. We're excited to be here on a very cold and dreary February day, at least in Arkansas. I don't know where it is where you guys are, but it's cold here. But we are here to talk about kissing, which we are very excited. We've been talking about them all month long. Last 2 times we talked about the steps of physical intimacy, and then last week we talked about the steps of emotional intimacy, which I really enjoyed that conversation. That was really good. Hopefully you guys learned stuff. But now we're going to talk about the actual kiss scene and how to write it and how to get it right. So we are very excited about it. But first, we're going to talk about what we've been doing. So let's start with Victorine.
All right. I just uploaded the next episode of my Angels Can't Fall in Love on Kindle Vella. So I'm excited to share the next episode of that. So I've been working on that. And I've also been working on the Nebraska Writers Guild conference and getting all of that stuff done for that conference. I'm really excited about that because Amy, Michelle, and I are all teaching at that conference. So if you want to come meet us in person, look up the Nebraska Writers Guild annual conference, and we'll be there April 21 through 23, something like that. So really excited about that.
We'll be there at some point in April. So
I'll call Amy the night before and make sure she's packed this time.
No, I kept thinking it was in March because I think we've had it in March. You've had it in March before, haven't you?
I think it's always in April, but we're always doing stuff. So who knows?
Tells you that I do not pay attention to the world around me.
It's always been a conflict with my daughter's birthday in April, so that's why I remember it. Remember that first year I brought her with us?
Mm-hmm.
You said it's the 24th?
I think it's 21 through 23.
Oh, okay. Emma's birthday is the 24th.
We'll get you back in time.
So it's okay. It's not like she's going to notice.
I missed a daughter's birthday for a conference and said the same thing.
She'll be fine. She won't know what's going on. Well, exciting. We're excited. Are you liking Kindle Vella?
Oh, love it. Yeah, it's super fun.
Awesome.
I really enjoy
Michelle
putting it.
If you like Kindle Vella.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, because I do.
I just like putting up each episode as I write it. It's super fun to be like, oh, now I get to instantly share it with everybody. So that's really fun.
Yes. It's like a turbocharge.
Yeah, it is.
Cool. All right, Michelle, why don't you tell us what you have going on?
Well, I prepped for the episode today by watching a great kissing scene in the drama I'm currently watching. That was just perfect timing.
So did you purposely watch it, or was that was the episode you were watching?
That was the episode I was on. And then I was like, why do I have to turn this on just to talk about kisses? I'll just watch one. But that's okay. I did. I'm here.
Yeah.
So it's City of Streamer, Amy, the one you've been watching with me. Episode 29. You got to get there.
I don't remember what one I was on with you.
I don't either. That was a while back.
I have to go. Yes. And that's it? You just watched it?
Yeah. I mean, like writing my Kindle Vella episodes and planning my rom-com that I'm writing. And I was out of town with my family for 2 days this week because my kids were out of school. And then the day you get back from being out of town, your whole house is a mess because you unload the van and then you're tired. And anyway, so today's my first day to really be back at work this week. So I really haven't had a super productive week. But it's been fun. Does that count?
Yeah, you got to have those moments. Well, awesome. And we started a rom-com group on Facebook called the No Drama Llama Rom-Com Author Group.
Yep.
So we're very excited. All of us written rom-coms are planning rom-coms. So if you are a rom-com author and you want to join us, please come over there. It's going to be really fun. We're going to talk about strategies, what we're doing. We have a newsletter swap post set up there, and it'll just be a really good informational place just for specific rom-com questions, all heat levels. Welcome. The only thing is we ask that you keep posts to sweet, heat level, and we're excited about it. All right, Laura, what are you up to?
So yesterday I had a book baby. It was book number 27.
Yay!
Well, publication number 27. I do include the box sets. So that's the makeover surprise. And surprisingly, or not surprisingly, it was like my worst. I I was not prepared for this launch at all. I just sort of decided I was done early. Let's just publish it. And then it was like, oh no, I have no one sharing this book. But thankfully, so many authors came. I put a post in Victorine's promo group, like, help! And it felt like, what's her name? Gracie Lou Freebush in Miss Congeniality, where she's like, okay, which one of these is lip gloss? And they're like, ladies. I felt like all of the authors came along like, we're going to help Laura. It was so nice. So it's been really nice. And yeah, it's fun to have another book out. I'm having that moment. I don't know if you guys have this when you release a book. You can't, like, normally I jump into something else, but I don't know, something about releasing a book, it's almost like you go through like the baby book blues or something, where I'm like so sad it's over, like it's in the world, and I don't know, I have to have a bit of time to be like, okay, and then I'll go on the next thing. So yeah, that's really all my news. Oh, I'm still doing my TikTok challenge. I'm still all in. I've had a few wobbles in the week where I was like, I've got to run ads, like this is going horribly wrong. Like for a few days there, TikTok's algorithms were being funny, videos weren't getting any views, and my sales went down. I was like, what have I done? This is awful. But I'm like, nope, I've got to stick with the challenge, and things have picked up again. And yeah, so that's all my news.
Very exciting. Cool. Well, congratulations. And if you want to read a rom-com, check out her new release. So perfect. And I am still figuring my life out. Once February is done, things will calm down. Yesterday, my daughter had an EEG, so we were at the hospital with her for 5 hours with a 4-year-old in a room where she had to sit on the bed the whole time. And we had to get her up at like 3 a.m, so she was sleep deprived in case we want to check out to make sure she's not having seizures, or if she is, we can treat those. So. And my parents are in town right now because they're buying a house possibly down here. And so I got hot water back last weekend.
Yeah.
I got it on Saturday. So I'm just like ready to put all of this craziness behind me and just focus on what's going on ahead. So is that a printer? Is that me? Did you guys hear that?
Oh, it might be my my heater running. Sorry, I'll mute.
No, I was like, it's alien. Somebody visited. But I have been writing in my next women's fiction book, The Inn on Harmony Island, and I'm almost 4,000 words into it. So I'm kind of excited. I'm still kind of feeling out how this whole series is going to go. I've had some really sweet people reach out to me about my Magnolia Inn series or my Magnolia series. One was on a Facebook ad. She was like, me and my 84-year-old mom have read all your series or all your books in this series, and we loved it. And I was like, that's like perfect, where you can get multi-generational people reading and loving your book. And this other lady was sending me typos or like things she wished I would fix in my manuscript. And she's like, I know I sound crazy, but you don't know how much these books bless me. And I want it to be the best product out there because these books are so good. And I was like, okay, like, I don't care that you're sending me these things. Like, if you're going to preface it that way, like life-changing for you. So that's exciting. And doing TikTok, doing ads, finally feeling like I have a plan, which is a really exciting because I have felt like I haven't had a plan, or I've been like, hot mess Amy trying to figure out her life. So I'm really excited for things to calm down in my personal life so that I can really focus and hit things hard in my other things. And kind of on with what Laura was saying, like, I don't ever want to depend on a specific platform only to sell my books. And so it's been really interesting to try to get these other platforms working for me, and trying to figure out how to because if one platform goes down for whatever reason, I don't know if anybody who runs Amazon ads, but for a couple of days their Amazon was the AMS ads are being weird. And so trying to figure out how to keep all the platforms running so that you don't have just one platform has really been my goal. So anyways, that's what I'm doing. So super exciting. I feel like I'm at the end of the tunnel, and I'm going to like pop out, and it's going to be sunshine and daisies, and my life is going to be a lot easier because I won't be doing that anymore, which will be nice. So let's talk about kiss scene. So one of the major questions that we got, or one of the only questions we got in the group, was how to make each kiss scene unique. And it wasn't so much like the buildup or situation, but how do you make them feel differently? So hopefully all of you have thought about that, because I'm going to call on each one of you to kind of give your little spiel of how to make a difference. Let's start with Victory.
Yeah, I get to be first. Then I don't have to worry about like repeating other people. All right. So I really like trying to take the personality of the people involved in the kiss and describing the kiss how they would describe it. So in one of my books, the female character is really musical, and she could play a lot of different instruments, and that's just kind of how she thinks in musical terms. And so the kiss is described in musical terms, the crescendo of the kiss and other, type things like that. And so I try to make each kiss unique in the perspective of the person that is having the kiss. And if it's their very first kiss, then it's a little awkward. And if it's somebody they've been in love with for a long time, this might be something they've really longed for. So describing it in that way makes it unique and different.
Perfect. What about you, Michelle?
I'm seeing my dog will stop barking. You might want to go to Laura first.
Okay, go ahead, Laura.
Well, I kind of try and think about why someone would think that, like, why someone would ask that question. And I think it's because you don't want to have like a samey kiss. Like when you've been writing lots of books, you feel like, oh, okay, just writing another kiss. But that's why with a kiss, I think you need to have other factors in there than just the kiss. So the location, are they in a subway? Are they hidden? Is there danger coming? What's the circumstances around the kiss? Is it a forbidden kiss? Is it that he's with another woman? Is it that they have been apart for 2 years and they're reunited? Is it an apology kiss? And that's the other thing. What kind of kiss is it? Is it a kiss with abandon? Is it like a really awkward first kiss that goes wrong, but it's still endearing? Or is it that kiss that makes you realize there's something wrong with this person? Like there's so many different ways to make that scenario. Like I've just done my 27th book, and so far I've not had one time where I'm like, oh, I'm just writing another kiss. Like, and I have multiple kisses in my books. So it generally, you got to think about location, externals like weather, sounds, not just what's going on between the couple kind of mechanically, but also all these other factors that just make it much more unique. And it'll become like a fingerprint. You could just have millions of kisses and never worry about them being the same.
Perfect. Love it. What about you, Michelle?
So since I get to go third, there's not a whole lot left in my notes. So part of it is to think about the dynamics between the couples. And Victor mentioned their personalities, but also mentioned the dynamics of where they're at in their relationship, but also like just how they interact with each other. Usually in a kiss, one or the other of them is going to take the lead in the kiss. And that person might change partway through the kiss on who's taking the lead. One of them might be a lot more dominant in it, and one might be more like receiving the kiss. So that is one thing that you can always use to change up, because it can change at different parts in the story or during the kiss itself. And that has a lot to do with their personalities. And you can use that to reveal changes in their character even, and the growth of their relationship. So I, along with what Laura was talking about with like different locations and things like that, I always like to take lots of notes on things that I like in books I've read, although let's be honest, it's mostly dramas these days, and just think about like how it changes the dynamics of the kiss depending on where they are. So like be original, get your characters into like crazy places. Like in A Man We're Shaving For, they were kissing in the supply room one time, and that surrounded by racks of lingerie. And so it was just kind of funny. But like in dramas, I've seen them where she's hiding under his desk and he drops a file folder on purpose so I can bend over and kiss her when other people are on the other side of his desk and not supposed to know she's there. Or like in a break room, there's this really great scene in another office drama where he is getting coffee for some of the ladies in the break room so that they won't find that she's hiding around the corner. And then he like sets the coffee maker to like dispense the coffee and then goes over and kisses her in the corner. And it's all sort of like, you know, forbidden kisses are fun, or when they might get caught is fun, or, you know, just think of like, how can I change things up from kiss to kiss to kiss so that, you know, just putting a different setting or tension or conflict, any of those things can completely change what would be, you know, a very similar action of kissing somebody.
Exactly. Love it. I love those examples too. Those are great. So I think one would be writing ones that you read or see down, talking about the things that you like about them. And then like what we're going to talk about next week is universal fantasies. And I think what Michelle said was touching on a ton of universal fantasies in how the forbidden kiss, how can you create a forbidden kiss that will be very satisfying? I just want to say this to everybody. Your first scenes are going to suck. They just are. And you will, the more you write, the better you'll become at writing them. I remember I was writing romance and I was like, I want to write better kiss scenes. Like I want to write like the way I feel in a show when they finally kiss. I want to write that down. And I think it's harder to put that across because you don't have the other elements. You don't have the music and the panning of the camera and the way he looks at her. Those are things that you cannot put in writing. So it can feel frustrating that your kissing is not satisfying. And even the mechanic, and we're going to talk about mechanics of it, but even because, you know, there's really not a lot you can say more than he put his lips on hers and they touched tongues. Like, it's just like there's a very clinical version of it. And then but adding all the other elements into it that make it more satisfying. So don't beat yourself up. You get better the more you write, Laura.
Sorry.
I was waiting for it to happen. It's going to happen during this episode at some point.
Did you say, and they touch tongues? Why would you write that? And then
I'm not, well, that's like
they
okay,
touch tongues.
when you're talking about French kids, I don't know.
Oh, it's so funny.
Well, it's my first books then I ever wrote because then you will think they're funny. No, anyway, that bad. But even then, like if you were gonna read it like in a medical journal, like how would they describe it? Like, don't do that.
Yeah.
Because it's all these other things that come into play. And I think a lot of it is also that emotional buildup and then knowing what type of kiss scene it is that you want to write. Like what Laura touched on and Victorine touched on. Okay, so my question for you ladies is, how do you make a kiss more emotional?
I get to go first this time, so I'm not like running out of things.
Okay, go ahead, Michelle.
Okay, so for one thing, you need to raise the stakes during the kiss. Like, the kiss should not just be payoff. It should also be raising the stakes in the relationship in some way. Just friends to lovers, for example, like the kiss is kind of payoff for all the tension that's led up to it. But then once that kiss happens, what are the consequences, right? And so that's how you make it more emotional, is by having the characters go through a series of emotions throughout the kiss. Like, wow, is this really happening? Am I really kissing him? He's kissing me. Ooh, this is good. I really like this. Wait, what now? What happens now? We just kissed. You know, like, you have to understand that it's not just like, oh, we're kissing and then emotions die away. You have to think about, what is my character going through? What is their emotional journey through the kiss? Because it will be a journey and not just the static, or it shouldn't be a static emotion through the kiss. And then also remember that it's going to be different for each character. They're going to go on different journeys because they're going to be in different places and they're going to have different conflicts to this relationship depending on, you know, their own personal arc or their backstory. So you can that's why it's always helpful, or often helpful, to do the kiss in one point of view at the beginning and then another point of view for the second half of kiss, like break it up between scenes or paragraph or chapters, so that you can see the difference in how each one of them is feeling throughout the kiss. And then I would say to remember to change the emotion in every kiss that you have throughout the book, like we're talking about making them unique. But you can even change the emotion for different stages of the kiss. And that can reflect the way that they're kissing. So it could start out with like a really urgent, fiery, passionate type, impulsive like kiss, right? And then after a moment of that, then they pull back and look at each other and share those, like that current of emotion between them. And then when they come back together again, it can be a lot more sensual. It can be a lot more emotive. It can be, just a lot more tender. So just think about the ways that you can have them interacting throughout the kiss that's going to portray. It's not just lips. Like personally, I hate it when you read a book and it's just, and they kissed, right? We're like, that's not the kind of kissing we're talking about. So since we're talking about like giving details here, those are the kinds of details that really matter. It's not just like, he tugged at her bottom lip or like tilted his head so he could deepen the kiss, or like, those are things I tend to write a lot. But like, it's about like portraying through the way they're kissing what they're feeling. So I better shut up so you guys have something else to say. Yeah, that's a big thing for me.
I love it. All right, Laura, why don't you go?
I think a lot of the work is done before the kiss, and what we've talked about with the build-up. And I think that to make a kiss emotional, you're just continuing the narrative of what is happening before that kiss. And so, and that takes a kiss from being just a sterile kind of physical thing and making it an emotional connection between your hero and heroine. And an example I was thinking of was, you think about like the tropes that you're using. So I did a second chance romance. It was just a short story, one of my Truth or Dare ones. And when they finally kiss, they were obviously together when they were in high school and they were reconnecting for, fake romance. And when they finally kiss and they're alone, it's just this moment of before it, they've had conversations and there's this buildup of emotion where they're having all these memories rushing back. They talk about difficult things, reasons why they weren't together, and then those walls come crashing down. And then when he lifts her in the end, she throws her arms around his neck and they kiss. She's screaming in her head, I'm home. And it gives this kind of feeling of, like when you say I'm home, it gives, as a reader, all these kind of emotions. So I think it's important as well to look at it as how you're going to make that reader feel something, like get the goosebumps and the feelings. And sometimes it's just by really short, like I'm home, there's 2 words, and that can make a huge difference to just being like, and then they kissed, So yeah.
So we're learning not to say and they kissed. Do not put that.
Yeah.
People will be upset. It's like you watch a romance and then at the end they don't ever kiss and you're like, okay, well now that's stupid. Like I feel completely not happy with that. Perfect. What about you, Victorine?
So my big tip for that, bringing in the emotion, is to make sure you are giving us the point of view characters' thoughts and feelings, how they're physically feeling during the kiss and what they're thinking about during the kiss, and how this changes their relationship. Because a kiss usually is a pivotal moment in the book. A lot of times it's at the midpoint where you're switching things up and something is changing between them. And so usually the kiss, unless it's like a fake relationship and they have to kiss in front of a camera, then that's a different kind of kiss. But usually when they both have accepted that they desire each other and are kissing each other like that, it's a pivotal moment, a change in their relationship. And so you want to be sure to give all those feelings and emotions and thoughts that the characters are going through.
Perfect. And I think also that a lot of times with kiss scenes, it's about the anticipation of it. Like in my Magnolia Inn series, when they're getting to the point where they've spent the day together and they have been like reaching each other on an emotional level, and he like pulls up to drop her off at home, and normally would just drop her off and drive away, but no, he says, I'm gonna, I'll walk you to your door. And she gets to the door and she doesn't want to open it, so she's fiddling with her keys, and he doesn't look like he's standing really close to her. So it's a lot of this, and then you open that up to some more emotional intimacy. She can say something and he can confess something, and as they're talking, you're bringing them closer and closer together. The way he's looking at her, the intensity, how that's making her feel. Is she getting excited? Does she think that this might be a possibility? And then he leans in for the kiss. And then it just feels right because it's been this anticipation up into it. I personally like when she talks or thinks a lot in her brain about what's going on, not so much about the mechanics of it all, but how she feels. And I like what Michelle said. I like when they do the initial kiss, then they pull away, and then the second kiss is a lot more intimate and passionate because they both are in agreement. Like, I liked this. Obviously, I didn't run away, and let's increase the passion more. But on the other side, with my rule number 3, since it was her best friend, he spent the whole time just rejecting her. And to her, she was like, it's just a kiss. Like, we're friends. It's not going to mean anything. Just kiss me. But you could tell through his resistance to kissing her that it was going to mean a lot to him. But she was like, I'm just going to badger you over and over and over until you finally kiss me. And that's when he gets frustrated and kisses her. She feels things. He, right when she starts to feel things, he breaks away from her and says, now you can never say I wasn't a good friend, and walks inside. The way I had their houses set up was that their rooms could see each other. So she gets upstairs totally shocked, didn't know what just happened. And as they're closing each other's blinds, she's closing her blinds, he comes up to close his, and they kind of eye contact, and he has this emotionally wrought look on his face. And then that's where the chapter ends. And so it's all about that anticipation and using the actions and physical stance of the person that they're kissing to either build that anticipation or give your reader that emotional feeling of maybe not what your current character is, but how the other character is reacting as well, based on what they're doing, how they're saying things, and where they're placed in the story. So,
and before we move on, go ahead. Before we move on from emotions, I would also say to remember that sometimes, like, a kiss on the forehead can have a much more emotional impact than a kiss on the lips can have. So just think about that as well. Or sometimes even like refraining from kissing can have a more emotional impact. So sometimes if you're trying to think about how to really portray strong emotions, then think outside of the box on the kissing front.
Yes, perfect. That not all emotions have to end in a kiss scene. Sometimes other things can be more meaningful. Love it. Okay, so let's talk about tongues touching. How much physical description do you need to put in? Let's start with Laura.
I think that you need to think of, well, it depends on heat level for starters, because if you're writing spicy, you're going to need to have more description. But if you're writing sweet, you need a lot less. But then it's a tricky thing, because I wrote like several books back in my billionaire books. I wrote less, but people interpreted it like steamier than I was meaning it to be. So there's a bit of a balance. But if you do write whatever you decide to write, so say you're writing, I write steamy kisses, but in sweet, if that makes sense. So it doesn't go any further. But they are very heated. And so there'll be description, but then peppered in there, it's going to have the internal narrative and the what's going on. So it's not just sort of like, how we talk about info dumping, or where you just put like a big block of text and it's like, and then this happened, and then he slid his tongue across her lip and bit, and she growled, and he, you know, it's just it would become too much like an instruction manual. Like, we're not teaching the readers how to kiss, we're trying to give them an experience as if they are kissing, I think. Otherwise it's creepy to think you're just watching two strangers kissing, eating popcorn. I guess that's what we do, though, isn't it? It's a bit weird. But yeah, that's my take on it.
Perfect. And I think it'd be more like you're watching a movie and you think you know who the love interests are, and then she starts kissing some random guy and you're like, no, that's not right. Like, there has to be that other element to it, not just, you know, putting lips on each other and moving on from there. All right, Michelle, what do you think?
So think about what kind of kiss it is, what you're trying to accomplish with the kiss. Because if it's like a kiss to reassure her, then there doesn't need to be a lot of physicality to it, right? If it's a tentative, let's feel out our emotions, it can be just a brush of the kiss, a brush of the lips, and nothing more. And I think that, you know, when you start going towards the more passionate emotions, then you're going to start being a lot more physical with your descriptions of it. Like, so the sort of ratio of, you know, internal thoughts and feelings to physical description is going to determine how passionate you want the kiss to be. So is it more emotional, or is it more about like hormones and attraction? You know, that can even have a home in Sweet Romance, obviously. And just remember that the brain is like the center of attraction. And a lot of people, you know, it's referred to it as one of our sex organs, even, because everything begins in the brain. So to make a kiss passionate has a lot more to do than like exactly the physicality of the kiss, right? And you can talk about their breathing. You can talk about their heartbeats. You can talk about, you know, whether or not they are holding their breath or making sounds in their throat. You know, those kinds of things can increase the passion of a kiss without the physicality of it. I think that it's, besides descriptions of the tongue, which we've mentioned, it's really hard to make a kiss super, super physical unless you start describing hands and bodies as well, right? And so that's kind of like moving into a different part of it. So like, I would say if you want your kiss to be more physical, but maintain the steam level that you want it to be, just remember that there's a big difference between whether hands and bodies are playing a role in that kiss and whether or not it's just focused on the mouth. It's like weird discussions that we have, guys. But yeah, so that's kind of some thoughts to remember.
What about you, Victorine?
So as I'm describing a kiss, I generally try to keep the physical description of physically what's going on to about 1/3 of the kiss. The other third is what they're thinking about, and the other third is the emotions they're feeling and the things that's stirring up inside of them. And so that's kind of how I try to balance that. Now, some kisses are going to be a little more physical than others, and some are going to be more emotional than others, and it just kind of depends on the kiss and who's kissing. But just remember that if you aren't describing things like where they're at, what their hands are doing, you know, are they sitting, standing, things like that, it'd be really hard for the reader to imagine what's going on. And so you do need some physical description of physically what they're doing, so that as the reader, we can imagine what they're doing.
Go ahead, Michelle.
So that triggers like a thought I was having about like how many times you can actually move the characters around in the kissing. Like, they don't just have to stay in one place, you know. Yeah. Like, you can start out with him like pushing her against a wall and end up with them like him pulling her onto his lap, or, you know, like, just think about the physical side of the kiss can also mean just how you move them around in the room. Yeah.
It reminds me of the kiss scene I wrote in my rule number 9, 8, one of them. You can't misinterpret a mistletoe kiss. And it's the whole premise is based around her parents are super competitive with this other family. And like they get together for the holidays, but they make everything a competition, like who can decorate a tree the best, who can decorate cookies, like everything just has a competition. And she's been madly in love with the son of this family forever. And she and him both end up under the mistletoe. And then the parents get involved and they're like, oh, my child can kiss the best out of all. And so they make them kiss. So like and they're just like, no, we don't want to do this. And they're like, no, you'll be fine. Just do it. So like, it's just like a brush of the lips. Like they're like, okay, we're done. And the parents were like, no, that's not how a so-and-so kisses. Like, come on, show them, really. So now she has to like make out with this family to prove that their family are better at kissing. And of course, there's a lot more emotion, a lot more physicality involved. And then her feelings, and then he of course runs out of the room because he has feelings for her too. Anyways, it was just like how the differences in physicalness of your kissing can change how that kiss is interpreted. So it's one of my favorite, like that whole like plot of the family being competitive. But and I think like what Victorine said, like adding those extra, you need to add place markers for what's going on, instead of just having all of the emotion there as well. So perfect. Okay. So I think the biggest thing now, especially I'm going to talk about the last part, we'll talk about the like the climax of like that emotional, like that kiss, not the climax of the story, but like everything that leads up to that the kiss where they figured out they have feelings for each other. So I wanted to know, like, so now you've had them kiss, but you still have, half of a book, a third of a book to go. So how do you end the kiss in a satisfying way that makes the reader want to continue reading more of the story? So, or how do you end the kiss so that people still keep turning the pages to your story? So let's start with Michelle first.
I was actually going to say on this one, like, don't have it end in a satisfying way. Like, in a lot of the cases, make it an interrupted kiss. Make it something where one of them walks away because of emotions. Make it something where they, start to really get into it and then pull back because of emotions, so that the reader's left wanting more. Because that's until you get to the end of your story. Is what every kiss should do. It should leave the reader like, oh, that was yummy, but I want more. Like, that wasn't enough. So that is pretty much like what you do, is you just give them enough to get them addicted and then leave them away, like leave them hanging, or like leave them wanting their next fix kind of thing. So there's this K-drama reviewer, actually she's a C-drama reviewer, who describes all of the like romantic beats in the story as sugar. And it's really cute. And so sometimes she calls it like artificial sugar. Like if it's something that it's just forcing it and it's not really working, it's not genuine, she calls it artificial sugar. But when it's working, it's like giving them real sugar. And people get super addicted to sugar, right? And so it's kind of like this thing, like artificial sugar can be like, like no big deal. Like, I don't really want more of that. So just remember to make everything really genuine and make it feel like, you're not forcing it to be a kiss just because a kiss belongs there, right? And that's kind of what a skill you hone over the years of writing these scenes, is that you learn how to make them really genuine and really emotive and really like where the reader can sink into them and experience the kiss. And that's what makes them really addictive, because they're like, ooh, I want to go through that again. I want more sugar, right? So leave them hanging, wanting more. Be their drug dealer.
You're going to get us banned on YouTube talking about drug dealing and
be their dealer. I didn't say it's a
that doesn't help either. Be their dealer.
All right, Victorine, what about you?
All right. So if romance is a dance, and throughout the romance, you're having your characters take 2 steps forward, 1 step back, the kiss is the 2 steps forward. Right after the kiss, you need to step back, just like what Michelle was saying. You need to pull back from that kiss. There has to be something that separates them out, because if you just have them kiss and then, oh, we're together, we're dating, we're happy now, that totally destroys your tension. And so you definitely, it needs to be a pivotal moment in your relationship. Something needs to change with that kiss, but it can't be the end unless you're at the end of the book. It can't be, now we're in a satisfying relationship. It needs to be like, oh my gosh, what did I just do? I just destroyed this whole thing that I was trying to do. So something has to make them take that step back from their relationship, and then they go forward with that, whatever changed in their relationship from that kiss.
Awesome. What about you, Laura?
I think this is where plot comes in as well. So my terrible personal shopper, they are kissing on the top of the Eiffel Tower and there's no one around. And but there's always this threat that someone could just walk in at any time because they're in a public place. And that kiss spans over 1.5 chapters. I went a bit crazy with that kiss. But, you know, it had a lot of emotion and thought. Yeah. But at the end, I had the same thought where I was like, I've blown it. Like, this kiss is like the end kiss. But then I obviously went back and looked at the plot and everything, and I realized, oh, okay. She looks up to look at the stars because it's nighttime, and he's giving her the best kiss she's ever had in her life. And she's like looking up to look at the stars twinkling, and then she sees something red twinkling, and then she sees it's a CCTV camera, and he's a celebrity. So then that completely rips them apart. So it's going on from what Michelle is saying, that you got to like pull them apart somehow. And it doesn't have to even be like an internal, oh, we shouldn't, like, I don't want to. It can be that external kind of plot device. Because I think when you're a new writer, certainly when I was a new writer, you fall into like uncanny valley. So you think, oh, I'm just going to simulate like real life. And when I had my first kiss with my husband, it was just like, la, 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 like, now we're dating. And there was like no tension. It was just like, everything is fine. So you have to remember that you're writing something that is an experience, not real life, unless it's a biography. Can you imagine writing kissing scenes in a biography?
No, I think that would get awkward and weird, and I'm sure nobody would want to read the kiss scenes between me and my spouse at the beginning. Like, No, I think that's great, and I think also like there are some people who you have to have some stuff in the plot that still has not been tied up. And there are people who, and I've written in 1 or 2 books, not a whole lot, where they kiss and then they realize they like each other, and you kind of allow them to be in this happy bubble. Like, you don't always have to have an interrupted kiss and then, you know, her ex walks in, or, you know, her mom, you know, her dad finds them. Like, it doesn't have to be that, but you have to have something your reader in the back of their mind is like, oh, that's great, but what's going to happen when they find out, or what's going to happen when this, you know, when she realizes that it was all a bet, you know, those types of things. Your reader has to be like expecting, okay, there's going to be a point where this comes to light, and then they're going to have to address whatever is going on. So keeping that in mind, making sure you're not tying up loose ends, having something, always do it. I think it's funny, Laura, you always talk about the CCTV, and they don't have those they don't have them in the United States. And so well, they do. They have like security systems, but like CCTV, it's like in Korean dramas. It's a huge thing there too, where there's cameras everywhere. And that's not like it is here in the United States. So when you talk about, I was like, I probably would have never even thought of putting something like that in. So just funny how it's different geographical locations, you guys experiencing things differently. And I would also say we kind of touched on tone and stuff, but genre is also a big thing. Kiss scenes are different in those types. So in my women's fiction, like there's not the way, at least in my Magnolia series, it was less about the drama between the two of them and more about the drama she had with other relationships. So they had a kiss scene and were able just to be happy from it, because that wasn't the plot line. That was her struggle, or there was a little bit in there, but just knowing the type of genre you're writing and the type of kiss scenes that are expected, like in contrast to my Wolf Shifter series where it's forbidden, but he's got this faded, like he's faded to her, so he's trying physically to keep himself away, but then, you know, he gets angry when he sees other guys flirting with her, and so he grabs her and he pulls her and kisses her because he just, it's that raw kind of animalistic desire he has for her. Very different than the type of tension that would be in like one of my women's fiction books. So knowing that is really important, or like where your character is. So I have a May December relationship where she's older, he's younger, and she's very shy, but he's not. He's a younger guy, and he's like, "You're beautiful, I love you," and or not I love you, but "You're beautiful, I want to touch you," type of thing. And I've had 2 kids, I'm divorced, those kinds of things. So knowing the tone of what's going on is also important when you're writing a kiss scene. But that's all. I don't, unless you guys want to add something more.
No. So are we not going to do your last questions?
We kind of touched on all of them, but if you want to add something, go ahead.
Okay, I'll add 2 things real quick, because you were going to briefly discuss how to match the tone of the moment to your genre and the tone of, like, you know, what should be happening then. So you just kind of like label your kiss. Like, is this a passionate kiss? Is this a romantic kiss, an innocent kiss, a tentative kiss, a jealous kiss? Like, what is it? Like, put an adjective on it, and then figure out what kind of prose matches that. So like if it's, you know, more of an exciting, frantic kiss, you should have like fewer descriptions. It should be shorter clip sentences. It should be, you know, concise, fast, hardcore writing, you know, like doom, 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 doom. Almost have a rhythm, like sweep all the clutter away from it, right? But if it's going to be this really tender romantic moment, then you can bring in those longer, more descriptive sentences and more flowery type adjectives and similes and analogies and all those things. So just remember, you can to match your prose, the way you're writing it, to the kind of tempo or emotion that you're trying to put in the kiss. And then also bring in your 5 senses in a very specific way. So like if it's romantic, like a passionate romantic kiss, your senses can include things like hearing the sound of the rain or the crackling fire, or like, you know, tasting you know, a little bit of cinnamon or peppermint, something nice, not pizza, which I have seen done. You know, try and match that. You're not gonna like talk about him dragging her into an alley that smells of pee and garbage and then having a romantic kiss there. You know, seriously, like just be careful about all the different things that you bring into the senses, but also know, like, depending on the kind of kiss you are having, maybe you do want something a little more raw or earthy, you know, in it. So like those can have a big impact. And then this is my like big tip for kissing practice: to find your favorite kissing scene in a movie or a series or a drama and write the kiss scene as you're seeing it, because sometimes people get really intimidated with having to describe the actual, you know, kissing, you know, descriptions, and like, what do I do next? And they just like lose track of what to do or what, you know. So just describe what you're seeing. Like he moves his hand up in the scene, and so like figure out, how would I describe that, you know? And it really can help you to become more comfortable with the act of describing a kiss, because you're not having to create it from like scratch out of your own imagination. You can actually see it happening in front of you, and so you can practice doing that. I'm not saying put it in a book, like don't copy a kiss and put it in a book. I'm just saying use it for practice to help learn how to do that, you know, in a way that gets you more comfortable with it.
Perfect.
And another tip is practice. Like actually, like go to your husband or your partner, if you've got one, hopefully, and then kiss them like properly and like pay attention to what's going on.
But don't tell them you're doing that, because I made that mistake once and it totally weirded my husband out.
Oh yeah, don't tell them. Don't tell them.
Well, one time I had a very specific thing. I was like, would this work? And I was like, can I try something really quick? He's like, what are you doing to me? What? And I told him, he's like, no, get away from me. It was just too weird. I was like, just let me try this.
My husband's like, sure.
Yeah, mine would be like, for scientific purposes, I shall help you.
Yeah, what was the deal with mine then? Because he was like totally weirded out by it.
Funny.
That's hilarious. I was, Victorine, do you want to say something?
No, I think you covered it great, Michelle.
And I would also say, like, this person wrote that read a book once where he kissed her after a meal, and then his thoughts told us it was his new favorite meal. Just be aware that not everybody might not like the meal that you are giving, and you are, or they have
I
had.
don't like to think about most foods when people are kissing.
No.
Well, and most of the time it means they have like food residue in their mouth, and that's just weird. Another one is licking their lips before the kiss. Like I
Or their
personally don't
mouths
like
watering.
Yeah.
That would kiss me so bad.
That one. No.
Salivating.
Yeah,
Yes,
no.
for a kiss. No.
You want it like properly wet, but not like an ocean. And you know,
I
you
don't
don't
like to describe it as being
want
like
Wet.
no.
Okay.
What,
Moist.
And we're done.
So just kind of keep it more mysterious than actual. Then you'll be good to go.
Sometimes being like letting their imagination take care of the details is the best way to handle it, for sure.
But it's just like there are certain parts, like when you're writing a book, you normally don't write about them going to the bathroom. Like there's just certain things you just don't need to go that detailed. You can be a little more obscure about those things. So anyways, well, thank you for joining us. I'm so excited to talk about next week, Universal Fantasies, because that's kind of tie in all of the kiss scenes and things that I'm learning personally about Universal Fantasies. And
Is it
Michelle was going to say
about
something.
kisses? Universal Fantasy about kisses or just in general? I'm curious.
I was thinking about just in general, because we kind of talked
Okay.
kiss scenes to death, and I don't know more we can talk about, but a Universal Fantasies can be put into, that can be part of it. We can talk about the Universal Fantasies inside of a kiss scene. But I'm just talking about just like in general, because it's like my new favorite topic. So
I'm just asking so I can be prepared.
yeah, no, it's going to just be an overall like Universal Fantasies. What are they? How to put them in your writing. Universal Fantasies in kiss scenes is great too. Universal Fantasies outside of kiss scenes. Like I'm learning that Universal Fantasies can be down to the way he stands. Like it's very interesting about these specific reader expectations that they love and want to see in books is basically what it is that we're talking about. So join us next week, same time, same place. And we will talk about Universal Fantasies. Until then, write the best kiss scenes possible. You have now been taught for 3 hours on how to write a good kiss scene. No one has an excuse anymore.
I guess it has been 3 hours of kissing instruction, hasn't it?
Yes. So you can do it. We believe in you. You can make and write the perfect kiss scene. And we will all talk to you later.
All right. Bye.
Bye.